If you found yourself feeling broken after a failed relationship or maybe a couple, this is an episode that you don't want to miss. Welcome back to the Broken to Brave podcast. I'm so excited for Kate to come on today. She's going to share more about her experience at BRAVE-cation and just also working together, healing, and overcoming all of those insecurities that were not true. Very quickly, I think you'll see how magnetic Kate is. Over and over again, I've witnessed people want to be around you, Kate. And I know that for many years, that was not how you felt. And we'll get to that. But first, I just want you to take a minute or two and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the invitation to be here and to share this experience. I'm Kate Luman. I am operations manager at Alliance Graphics. It's based in Berkeley. I've been with that company for a while, and just recently I just started my own business called the Little Bench Project. And this little project is so near and dear to my heart. And it's basically, I make little replica benches. I'm a woodworker, right? So I create all these by hand, and they are meant to symbolize, sitting with someone on the bench metaphorically. So supporting them, offering them some inspiration, maybe just commemorating a moment or in remembrance. And this project started, it was right after the first BRAVE-cation I attended. I connected with a couple of women, and I just lost my dog and I was grieving that. And I went out to my favorite place to sit on a bench, right? And I was communicating with these women, right? And one of them was like, "I'm on the bench with you." And it's like right then and there, it just starts spinning. And it was this catchphrase they would use over and over and over again. And it just was so natural, me being a woodworker, to kind of introduce this into the world, right? And so now I just kind of leave them out and about. And I love this project so much. It is like, I just am filled with so much joy creating them and leaving them and sharing them with people. And I just recently had a festival where a lot of this connection came into play. We can talk about that a little bit later. But
Yeah. I love the little benches so much because what I've seen is that so many people feel alone or they feel lonely. And it's a reminder that alone is a lie, that we aren't, and that we have people that are there for us. And I just think the symbolism is so beautiful. And yeah, we'll talk about the festival. I'll just say I'm so proud of you for doing it. And I can't wait for you to share a bit more about how that even felt from like a personal growth standpoint. I have something else coming to mind that I think I want to start with. And when I think about you, the first thing that pops to mind right now is when we were in Costa Rica at BRAVE-cation. And there was this one morning, maybe it was about halfway through, where I noticed that you were not yourself. And I think, you shared that you were feeling dysregulated, and that ended up, and I'll let you share whatever level of detail you want to, but I wanted to say that ended up being one of the, like a moment that I will always remember in Brave. One that is like stamped, like a core memory, I guess, stamped in my mind. And I just wanted to, turn it to you to share anything about what happened for you there.
Yeah, as you said, I woke up, had a rough night. Felt completely dysregulated, and felt like I was just carrying, like I was sad and just really, really heavy, and I could not get grounded. I pulled out all the tools that morning, right? And short of asking for help, right? I was really doing the best to bring myself back down, and I just couldn't do it. And as we were sitting there, we're meeting in the morning, we're kind of discussing recapping yesterday, and people are sharing their experiences and whatnot. And I just wanted to leave. And I did. I think I got up and left in the middle of it. I couldn't take it. I was on the verge of tears, and all I could think, it was like anger was bubbling up, and I was sad, and I just felt like I was unable to connect for some reason. I
It
just
was like
felt
crawling out of your body.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was just like, and I could not. And so I got up and I left, and I finally I came back. I was like, I want to be part of this, and I want to share this experience. I'm not going to hide from this. So I forced myself. I came back out and I sat down, and immediately I was kind of hoping you'd skip over me, but you didn't. You were right to me, right? And I was like, and I just started talking and sharing about this dream that I had the night before, and it just started coming out. I mean, I just started like, I couldn't stop the tears, and I was talking about this anger that I felt and all of these horrible emotions that were inside of me, and just they were scary, and I felt like I had no control over them. And instead of feeling through them, I was trying to like keep them down. As for many women, we've talked about this, for women in particular, I think we're taught not to express our feelings. We're supposed to keep all those down. And even in spite of all the work that I've done, I was so shocked that that was all still there, right? So and she is steadfast too. She grabs my hand and she pulls me up and she's like, stand up on the chair in front of everybody. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't want to do this, right? She said, can I get up on it? Come on, let's go. So I stand up on the chair, and the next thing I know, she's guiding it. She's got us all like, she goes, we're just going to let this out. You need to scream, and you just need to let this out, right? And then everybody, all the women, we all were screaming with me. And it was just like this huge release of emotion, right? And I don't know, we did it like 3 times, and all I could hear was like, as I was releasing, I was feeling all these women around me and all of their energy coming back into me, because what they were releasing was maybe their own anger and their own frustration, but really I think it was just love and being there with me, right? And then we danced and we hugged, and what you play Unstoppable, which I swear is my theme song for the rest of the year. I mean, I just feel so unstoppable right now, and empowered. And in that moment, I did not realize the impact that it had on others. And I barely understood what it meant to me in that moment, right? And it wasn't until a few days after coming home and coming down a little bit, and you and I talked a little bit, and I was holding like a little bit of, I don't know how I feel about that. I know I felt really good afterwards. Like I felt like I released all of that, whatever it was I was holding that was not serving me any purpose at all anymore was released. And as I think about this, I think one of the women that was there, she expressed to me, like maybe a couple weeks later, we were talking about the experience, and she's like, you know, I want to thank you for that experience, because it taught me, it showed me that it's okay to feel anger, right? It's okay to be angry. And my confusion about that and my connection with anger was a loss of relationships. If I was angry, I would lose relationships. And it wasn't because I was angry, Steph. It was because of how I was reacting to the anger that was causing the disconnection and the loss of relationships. And I hadn't put all that together until that moment, really, when I was given permission to let all of it out in a safe place among these women who just showed me so much love and support, that I made that connection that I can feel anger and I can react in a way and respond in a way to the anger in a healthy way. It's not going to be yelling like I did that what we did at BRAVE-cation. That's not appropriate in all circumstances, but I can handle it differently. And as long as I set up my own boundaries and understand that. Since that moment, I have handled my anger, my frustration, and my sadness so differently. I recognize it more quickly. I respond to it differently. I engage it. I sit with it. I hold it. I work through it instead of just this build up. And what I was doing was build, and then explode.
Explode. Yes. Yeah. So let's recap that really quick, because I think this is such a beautiful opportunity for everybody listening to learn from you and your experience. Most of us were raised with most emotions, at least negative emotions, and particularly with anger, to not feel it. And so if we think about you being in the pool for a moment and a beach ball represents all of the emotions, but we'll say like it represents the anger, and you were pushing it, pushing it, pushing it under the water and trying to keep it under the water. But you know, those white beach balls that have all the different colors on them, all they want to do is come up.
Boom.
Yes.
Pop up.
Yes.
Yes.
And so in life, leading up to this point, correct me if I'm wrong, you had a pattern where you would hold that beach ball down with so much force and for so long until it sometimes would explode out.
Absolutely.
And what you learned at BRAVE-cation is I can let it out intentionally and proactively, and beautiful things happen,
Yes.
which
100%.
is quite literally the opposite of what you used to believe. If we sum up what you believed about yourself when it comes to relationships, and I know there's like an anger piece intertwined here, and we dial it back to when I first met you, can you recall what that belief was?
I wasn't worthy of having deep connections with people, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't know how to do that. That if I didn't stay the course and stay in line and be what people expected me to be, that they wouldn't like me, that I would not have those relationships. And I really felt like anytime that I kind of pushed back on that, I lost a relationship. And it could be just because of what people expected me to be rather than who I really am, you know?
Yeah. And that reinforced that limiting belief. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I can relate to that so much. You know, I was raised to suppress my emotions, and I had a pattern I could suppress for a good 3 months, and that was it. And then it would come out in rage,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and I trying to remember what year it was, probably not super important, but I lost a friend who was a best friend, and we at the time where we were in school together and we worked together, and our entire friend group was the same.
Mm-hmm. I can relate to that. Yeah.
And and so if I like sum up in one emotion, I'm just curious if this felt true for you. I felt ostracized and broken, and like I had to pretend to be, I don't know, back then I probably wouldn't have used the word pretend, but in hindsight, looking backward, I didn't think I could show them who I was because I thought there was something flawed.
Yeah, for sure. Especially that very similar experience, you know, where a couple of years ago, I lost my friendship with my best friend. And, you know, one of the reasons I moved to Florida was to be closer connected with these people. And I lost that friendship, you know. And, you know, I can take accountability for how I showed up, you know. But my whole friend circle was exactly the same thing. It was solely around them. So all of a sudden I found myself like on the outside of everything and really lost and depressed, you know, and really questioning my
Let it out.
really questioning my significance, you know. And
Let it out.
and it was a really long, it took a while before I started feeling confident enough to show, to be myself. Maybe even just in the last, it changes so quickly. It's incremental, right? I mean, I can look at back in 2 years ago and I can see myself as this shell of person that I am right now and how much I've changed. And, you know, I see the difference is so stark. But when I break it down into smaller pieces, I can even look back, you know, 4 months ago and see a significant change in myself, you know, and I just continued to grow. And when I feeling, looking back, at that person 2 years ago and looking at myself right now, I never would have thought that was possible. I never would have thought it was possible. I didn't even know that this was inside me. You know, I had no idea.
You never could have imagined. And
Nah.
yeah, I know there's people listening today that are probably in that spot too.
Yeah.
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 As I think about who I've witnessed you shift into and blossom into, things that come up for me are around self esteem, around openness, around authenticity. And so I'm wondering if you can say a little bit more about you and what you've noticed, and if there's any pieces of BRAVE-cation that stood out in facilitating that growth.
Sure. I'll go back to the first one I attended. So I've been to two, right?
Yeah.
And I'll go back to when we first met, right?
Oh
And
my
we're
gosh.
doing like kind of
Yeah.
okay, so we have our little, what do you call that? The introductory,
Clarity call.
the clarity call, right? So,
Yes.
and I'm like, this is me. I was lacking self-esteem. I was feeling down about myself. I didn't have any confidence. And those are the things that that I felt were the things I needed the most work on, right? And so we did that, and we're going through I'm in the academy, and I was in conjunction with, I was still seeing a therapist at the time, or something that was just new to all of this inner work, right? And quickly I realized, maybe within a month, I was like, okay, all my eggs are in one basket. I'm all in on, on you. I'm working with you and working in the academy, right? So it was after we did the 2-day retreat, and then I decided I wanted to start doing some one-on-one coaching with you, right? And we're still like, I'm really embracing the academy, and I'm making a lot of progress,
Yeah.
and I'm going through the modules and everything. And then, but there one big piece, and this is all about connection, right? And this is all about openness. Was not me. That was not in my vocabulary. I was not open with anybody. I wasn't sharing anything nothing, right?
And the fact
as
that
a
you're
res-
here, by the way,
right, and then I'm doing this. Here's the growth, people.
this is it.
This is it right here. I mean, we were like 2 months, maybe a month into working one-on-one with each other, right?
Yes.
And then I just casually was talking about, I was holding a lot of grief, right? And we started talking about that and how I lost my wife since divorce. But, she died almost 10 years ago, and I grieved her when we divorced. I was holding grief about that. And then when she died, I was holding grief about that. And we never talked about that. And that's how closed, and I kept things
You
to
hadn't mentioned
myself. I hadn't mentioned it, and you didn't know that. And that's once we made that connection, and that kind of opened the doors a little bit. I knew immediately I wanted to go to BRAVE-cation. It was like I'm going, I'm all in. And I remember when you would talk about setting intentions for BRAVE-cation, and I was like, I could use some help with that. And you're like, openness, and that's it. And it was like, that's it. That's your intention, right? And I'm like, you're right, openness. If I want to have connection with something that I deeply, deeply want is connection, meaningful connection, right? I have to be willing to be open, right? And to share myself so that I can have that, right? And so from going from someone who does not like to talk about their emotions, who suppresses their emotions, who keeps things very, very close to the vest, to sharing like this, is a complete transformation. And as a result, like, not only do I have meaningful connections in my life, right? I mean, I don't have a ton of them, right? I'm not like, swimming in deep connections, but I don't need them, but I have them, right? And the more that I show up like this, and the more that I'm open with others, I'm actually opening up myself to receiving what others have to offer, and everything that there is there to offer, everything that's out there. That piece of it alone has just completely changed my life. I'm so much more confident as a result. I trust myself. I feel like I'm showing up as more and more every day as my authentic self, which I had no clue who that was when I started this, And it's
and
just
so many
been
people.
beautiful.
Yeah, so many people can relate to that. Like, I don't even know, like, who am I? What do I want? And just because you don't know now doesn't mean you can't discover it relatively quickly. Like, in the grand scheme of your life, you began discovering it, I don't, months, I mean, and even more and more as we go. And how ironic is it that the thing that I want the most, connection, is the thing that I am subconsciously doing the opposite. I'm doing the thing that prevents it,
Yep.
right? Not
Yeah.
not showing up with openness prevents the deep connection.
Right.
And I'm highlighting that because you and everyone else on this planet. And so for people listening, it's so useful to ask yourself, where am I doing the thing that is preventing what I want? Where
Yep.
am I getting in my own way? Where am I stopping myself from having this?
What I want. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
I even some had a breakthrough around this in January of this year where
Mm.
it was in small little micro moments where I was blocking myself from getting what I want. I'm going to give just a little example and perhaps I'll do an episode on this. It was around receiving.
Mm.
And I was raised where my family originally is from Poland, part of them. Well, what I learned in January, ironically, is part of Polish culture is you deny, and if somebody asks a third time, you say yes. And so I'm going to give you an example. Like,
Yeah.
oh, can I help you with the dishes? No, that's okay. Are you sure you don't want help with the dishes? No, 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 that's okay. If they don't ask a third time, oh well. And so I was aware of this pattern because I had witnessed it in my home and I thought I had eliminated it.
Mm.
And I had not eliminated it completely. And it was like, psh, holy smokes, here it is. And so now it's at the forefront of my mind. And I don't know, maybe a couple weeks after that, Ed was like, oh, can I, put gas in your car? And the first words out of my mouth were, no, that's okay. And then I was like, I'm receiving. I'm in receiving mode. Yes, thank you.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. That's excellent.
And I'm sharing this because I want to
Yeah.
encourage everybody, you're never past it.
Right. It
There's
just keeps
always
coming.
more. And
Yeah.
and and that's not a bad thing. And it's just as human beings we have so many layers and there's so many opportunities for growth and yeah. So it's a
Yeah.
journey. It's a
It
journey for
is.
sure. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Now, when we think about BRAVE-cation, one of the things that stands out to me is the connection that is available to form
Hmm.
and that being in direct alignment with what you've wanted. So I don't know if anything stands out around BRAVE-cation facilitating you showing up with openness and facilitating these connections. Anything you want to share around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that was out of the first one that was a little was unexpected for me was I knew, with setting the intention to show up and be open, I was pushing myself to make sure that I shared, right? Through whatever exercises and whatever workshops, like things we were doing right at the time. And I think what was surprising to me was that I was accepted and the support that I received from everyone, and
Fully accepted.
right, fully accepted. And not just that, actually people liked me. They liked who I am, right? And that just proved to me it was like just a little tiny micro moment, like one little step, one little blip, right? That reinforced that when I am open, I open myself up to the opportunity for connections. And as I walked away from that one, that was the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway for me personally was it's like whatever I put into this world, I will get back, and whatever I put into BRAVE-cation, I will get back tenfold every single time,
Yes.
and the connections one woman in particular, we are really very, very close friends. And we've been through our shares ups and downs over the last, year and a half, but we are very, very close. And that relationship to me is like, it's so important to me. And I've learned over the year and a half, how to show up in a way that relationship can grow, that I can help that relationship grow, right? And then I can nurture that and be supportive. When I think about levels of connection, there's deep connection, and then there's connection just, we have different levels of friendships and different connections, levels of connection with our family and stuff. and even those, I show up differently for those now. And there's a level of openness that I have that I didn't have before. I'm willing to share a little bit of the harder stuff now with my family, and it's not all rainbows and sunshine all the time, and in turn, it allows me to hold space for them. And I think that's like the biggest shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you mentioned family and that deep relationship that you have with her. When I look at you two, I feel like you're best friends and you've
Yeah.
just grown together so much. And it's really beautiful when, even when there's a stumbling block, when two people allow themselves to evolve together and come back and see each other's hearts. Like we
Yeah.
care about each other and we're human and humans mess up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I realized, and part of that, when I think about some of what was holding me back a little bit, and this is goes in the openness and connection part, was I had still struggled with worrying about how articulate I am and worrying about what I'm going to say. And if I don't say something the right way, then I might lose, this person might not like me, and I might lose this friendship, right? I was holding on to a lot of that. And when we stumbled a little bit last year, right? And part of it was me trying to anticipate what I was going to say rather than listen to what was actually being said, right?
Yes.
And as it was such a huge like aha moment when, you helped me find that little nugget, right? And it's still something that I find myself doing occasionally, but now more and more I find myself trying to stay present, right? Trying to stay here in the moment and not so much worry about what I'm going to say, trusting in how I will handle the situation, how I will react to the situation, that I am able to deepen those connections just by doing that, just that shift.
Just being present. And I'm so glad you mentioned trust, because when we trust ourselves, we are okay. Not like, I'll trust myself if I say the right thing, or I'll trust myself if they don't get upset, or I'll trust myself with all these criteria. No, I trust myself to handle life.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
As it arises. And you know what? If something arises and I don't know what to say, to just stay in line with this example, I can actually say that. I
Right.
notice I'm not sure exactly how to respond right now. Can I like take a couple minutes to sort through my thoughts?
Boom.
Boom. Easy
Yep.
peasy, you know?
Yeah. And who hasn't been there,
Who
right?
hasn't been there? If anybody says I haven't, you're lying.
No, they just need to come work with you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I know that you were referred to work with me by a dear friend, and so this may not resonate with you, but let me just ask, were you skeptical about the value of working together and or the value of BRAVE-cation? Because earlier I heard you say whatever you put in, you're going to get 10 times as much out of it.
Yeah, and it's true. So like I'm working with you is a no-brainer for me. I mean, I'll say this, right? I think, at least for me, I had spent a lot of money and time investing on my physical well-being and completely ignored the inner work, right? It didn't even dawn on me to do anything in that direction, right? Once I realized that, and we were introduced and we started working together. Once I made that commitment, I was all in. I mean, I just knew this was right for me, and I know, and I'm right. I was 100% correct. I followed an intuition. My intuition led me on this path, and I didn't even know it at the time, but here I am, right? And BRAVE-cation, we were 6 months in at the time when I did join my first one. And I think if you had introduced that to me earlier than that, I don't know that I would have gone yet. I don't think I'd gotten to the point where I felt that would have been beneficial to me yet, right? But it landed in the perfect time for me because I was ready to make some shifts. I was ready for the next steps for me, which was to open up, and to be part of, God, I can sound so cliche, but really just start embracing life again. I mean, really, honestly, it's like the truth. So no, I don't have any hesitation about that. And honestly, I got more out of it than I put into it. I probably went into the first one with a lot of expectations, right? Right. And I met those, and they were met and exceeded them. When you're able to set and get in a setting where you're able to remove yourself from all, for the most part, all external influences, and commit yourself to coming in with an open heart and ready to receive, ready to just be there to like learn, to discover new things about yourself and others, right? And learn to support others in ways that you didn't think that I didn't think I was capable of doing, right? When you're ready to do that, you get so much more back. And the things that I walked away with, I still had to do the work. This wasn't a one and done. You give us the skills, you help find our path. You help lead us in a direction of self-discovery, right? That opens us up to seeing the world a little bit differently. But you have to take those tools, and you have to take what we learned from them, you have to apply them, and you have to continue to do the work. And I chose to do that, and fortunate, and I'm in a position that I can do that, you know? And as soon as we got done with the first one, I was like one of the first people to sign up for the second one, like immediately. I'm like, here's my credit card, take it, swipe it, I'm in, I can't wait, you know? And then I marked it off on my calendar, and this year is the same thing. I was like,
It's magical.
it is magical, Steph. It's magical. It's magical, magical. And even since then, I am just so different than I was even just a few months ago. I continue to thrive. I just feel like I'm thriving right now, and everything's in front of me. And had I not done this work with you, I wouldn't have seen these opportunities at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you came and that you've continued. I heard you say you have to. And I will say, you don't. And that's where sometimes people can go awry, no matter who is guiding them, whether it's me or somebody else. But you have a choice, and there's so much value in, let me apply what has been brought to my awareness so that I can create the life that I want.
Yeah, no, fair on that. Yep, absolutely
And
right.
so I give you credit because you have done that. 100%. Okay. So when we think about BRAVE-cation, is there anything that stands out in terms of, like, I don't know, favorite parts or anything surprising or?
You know, outside of, I'll call them like mini workshops because that's kind of what they are, right? Okay. So outside of that, I think my favorite times are these pockets of little one-on-ones that I get with everyone. You know, you're spending time with women that I don't think in the general course of life, I'd imagine that we would cross paths and that we would share and connect with, right? But my favorite parts were definitely these little one-on-one moments that I had with everyone. And what continues to surprise me is how quickly everybody kind of gets on board with it, right? Like how quickly everyone starts to open up, right? And starts to trust the situation and realize what a beautifully safe space you created for everyone, you know, and that there's no judgment. I mean, people are just all in there to support you. And on top of it, the similarities. There's so many similarities. We're not all that different. As you like to say, like the least unique thing about us is our insecurities, right? It's flat out true when you can get to it, right?
People think like, oh, I can't let anybody see this. I can't let them know it. And it's like, dude, every person you have ever interacted with, exact same 3 insecurities.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you design it so beautifully. You create this wonderful balance of, you know, workshop, doing the work, and then also there's play involved in it, and there's recreation, and there's relaxation, and there's, you know, it's just beautifully designed. It's a beautiful experience, stuff. I just don't even know what else to say about it than that. I just love it. I love what you've done with it. I love the space that you created, you know.
Thank you so much. One of my favorite moments from the most recent one with you in March in Costa Rica is late nights after workshops were done, and you and Cass are on the couch, and I felt like I went to a concert.
I know, Cass is so good. It was so great, you know.
And you can give yourself credit too. playing the guitar and singing and just being present, not like no other thoughts on our mind, just like being with each other. And it just felt so pure and so fun. And I will always remember that moment too.
Yep, I love that moment as well. And it was, yeah, it was like nothing felt forced about any of it. You know, it was like we all just kind of relaxed into it. And I remember, like, you know, I don't know, I don't know if it was like the last night or whatever, but when the photos were coming through and we'd gotten those and we're sitting on the couch together, we're all kind of huddled together, just flipping through the photos. And it was just like, it was just so great. And just to see all the photos on the last night, I couldn't believe how much we got James.
Right?
Days.
Mind blowing.
I was like, oh my gosh, I bet it feels like it was like 2 weeks ago. And it was a day and a half ago, right?
It's true.
I know, I'm like, you know, and I don't want to name drop, but, you know, working with my buddy in the kitchen and sharing just abundance of laughter with her was so special, you know. Again, it's just those one-on-one moments, you know. I love.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone's listening right now and they feel like, gosh, this sounds amazing, but I don't know, like maybe it's selfish or I don't have enough time, or can I really like spend the money on myself or whatever it is, what would you want them to know about BRAVE-cation?
All right, we kind of already tapped on it a little bit, you know, where I talked about how we were, like, for me, and I think this applies to everybody, we're quick to pick up and spend some money on ourselves physically, and not so quick. You know, the inner work tends to get pushed down in the priority, right? But if we flip that around, they one will lead into the other, you know. And if you take the time to invest in yourself and your inner work, in yourself, on your interpersonal work, you will deepen your relationships with yourself and therefore deepening them with your loved ones and showing up for everybody in the way that you want to show up. It will trickle down to how you feel about yourself physically. And then you'll start making, you know, you could make transformations in that way. So I kind of say, after working with you, I would recommend kind of flipping the narrative on that, and it'll all trickle down and it'll all come together, you know.
Yeah.
It's worth the investment. You are worth the investment. I promise, you know.
Absolutely. I had this question cross my mind, and now that I started asking it, it is slipping my mind. But I'll just say this piece and maybe it'll pop back in, is a regulated nervous system. Like it helps everything else. You know, there's so much focus in the world on weight and weight loss and maintaining weight loss. And when we change our relationship with ourself and our emotions and our nervous system, it makes all of that flow so much easier, because what oftentimes the weight gain, it's from numbing the emotions from eating the food. And not that that's a, you know, part of your journey, but I just, like, it popped in my head and I wanted to make that point since you were talking about the external and the internal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, that's been a big part of my journey as well, is like, you know, feeling depressed and suppressing my emotions and numbing through them in multiple ways, you know, whether it's with alcohol or whether it's sleeping for days on end. And the more I got regulated and the more I sat with my emotions and the more I actually processed them, and felt them. And rather than trying to keep pushing them down, I don't do those things anymore. I still feel those emotions and then they're still heavy, right? But I have expanded my tolerance for holding space for them, you know?
I'm really, really impressed and proud of you that sharing that could be really vulnerable for somebody to say that out loud and to say it on a podcast where you don't really know who's going to listen. And so that alone shows your growth. The fact that you're able to like say it without shaming yourself, without judging yourself. And this is part of my journey. This is actually part of what led me here. And look what I've been able to do because of that.
Yeah. Thank you for validating that. I feel, probably wouldn't have said that a year ago, right? You know?
You wouldn't have. I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Now I'm just so proud of myself. I mean, I don't know. We say that enough about ourselves. I know that maybe in the past I hadn't, right? But I am very proud of myself. And I'm so grateful for you and helping me on this journey and guiding me. I mean, I'm so incredibly grateful for you.
Thank you so much, Kate. Is there anything else you want to share about BRAVE-cation?
There's so much, but I could go on and on, but I think we're good, right?
I think so. Yeah, I was like, I think we're good. Let me just ask, just in case. And Kate, what I am going to do on this episode, just in case anyone was curious about Little Ben, check out the show notes because I will put the link for her website so you can take a look. I personally have invested in the benches, and I have one sitting here right on my desk, and I love them. And I think that listeners will treasure them too.
Oh, thank you, Steph. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, take care.